Give me a second. Okay, you should see the globe now. Great. Okay, hello everyone. Happy late February. Feels a little bit like spring here. I am putting the agenda in the chat for you all to follow along. So yeah, we can get started with a little icebreaker if you like. I can't remember if we've already done this one, but I like it. So you can put your name in the chat. We've got a couple new folks here today, so please put the region where you are doing outreach and technical assistance, and then also type in a chore that you don't mind doing. So yeah, your least hated chore. And I'll start. My name is Mickey. I'm with the state. I think my least hated chore is folding the laundry, especially when it's nice and warm. Okay. All right. I will share my screen so we can look at the agenda together. Okay. All right. Okay. We can get started. So, as you all know, I'm excited to give you all a little bit more of a chance to do some sharing out. These monthly meetings I had hoped a long time ago would turn into a place where you all can share your experiences and collaborate. That process has been slower than I wanted it to because there have been so many updates and developments with all of these programs. So it is my goal going forward with our new contract to allow more time in these hour-and-a-half meetings to have you all share with each other. So we'll kind of kick that off today. A couple things I just want to mention before we get started with that is just a reminder that quarterly reporting is going to kind of pick up the same style. You'll notice you've got your questions back in your spreadsheet. They're the same ones that you've been reporting on, with one more question related to progress towards your strategic plan. So again, just a reminder, those quarterly reports are due 30 days after the end of each quarter. So hopefully those sheets work as a way for you to kind of keep tracking along and update them as you go. But we do hope that they will be completed by April 30th for this January through March period. An evergreen reminder to submit your invoices. A lot of you have been doing a great job with that. And then on that note, I had a wonderful meeting with the Southern Front Range crew about just where they're at with any funds left over from the first contract that are rolling over into the next one. I know a lot of you are keeping really careful tabs on how much money was left over from your last contract if you didn't spend it all. But if you want to get on the same page with me about that, I'm happy to, have a conversation about that over email or in a quick call. So, that invitation's on the table. Any questions about that? Okay. Okay, so now I would like for us to, talk a little bit about these amazing strategic plans that you all built out together. I had the pleasure of reading all of them. In some cases, we had some clarifying questions, which I received all of your answers to those. And I feel with each group that we've got a really strong plan for the next 2 years, which is super exciting. But I wanted you all to kind of have a little bit of a chance to share out what that experience was like, what your main takeaways are. And yeah, if there's sort of been a collective decision to, yeah, shift themes or change the work in any way based off of your strategic plan. So I'm going to give each of you time to just talk about that process, what your takeaways were, any challenges you experienced in that, the development of your strategic plan. And then, you know, everyone talked about the need for trust building. And that's understood, right? There are a lot of businesses that your organizations might not have really close relationships with yet. So I'd love for everyone to talk about kind of a concrete action they're planning to take to do that trust building. And as you know, we have a lot of examples in that um, corner store outreach guide. And yeah, I think we should think about that corner store outreach guide as a living document and add to it if we're learning some really great ways to build trust with retailers and businesses who can advance the goals of this program. So I thought we could get started with the San Luis Valley. Hey, would you like to take the floor?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, do you want me to just talk about what we're trying to do?
Yeah, feel free to talk about it. I'm happy to share any part of it too. Or can you share your screen? You're welcome to do that.
Yeah, let's see.
I'll stop my share.
Okay. This one. Um, so, as you guys probably know, we are very spread out here in the valley, and there's 13 communities where people live that there are no grocery stores. And so we've identified those, and then we've identified where in those places that there may be a retailer of some sort that could potentially carry groceries. So we only have a handful of eligible grocery stores anyhow, like locally owned, that qualified. We let them know about it. Like they kind of know. So it's like, okay, the next thing we can do to bring healthier foods to people here is to help the coffee shop down the street potentially carry some groceries. So I identified, and maybe I can, yeah, here we go. I identified a handful of different places. I mean, all the way from like liquor stores, coffee shops, restaurants, in places that we should be talking to about, hey, this equipment is available. There's money for it. So that's sort of our next thing, because I feel like we really sort of saturated the currently eligible places. So anyway, this is our next thing, is just like going in and in person, talking to the owners or managers of these stores and seeing who might be interested. I do not expect half of them to, really be interested in doing this, but if we could get 5 or 6 towns or communities that don't currently have groceries to have some access to those groceries, that's my goal for the next couple of years. And so yeah, we identified that stuff. And then I made this bigger plan, just sort of making, just, sort of pulled numbers out of thin air, but like, how much money do we want to bring into the valley? I want to bring this much in the next 2 years. So we have something we know we're shooting for as far as the tax credit. And somehow we thought that we would be contracted through the end of this program. So I was imagining I'd have more years to do this. We still will do this. We've signed up, and I think Mickey probably sent it to you. We've signed up, myself and Aiva and Ari, all to do this grocery store training, like rural grocery store initiative thing that's happening, because we really need this help in our community. So my other goal is to be talking to potential entrepreneurs to actually start a grocery store from scratch, whether that's a mobile market, which I think would be very helpful out here, since like having a brick and mortar location that you're either building or renting is really expensive to maintain all the electricity, maintain the staff. So anyway, I'm hoping to identify a few people that actually want to start stores, because I think that this funding from CDA, if we're really strategic about making sure all their purchases happen in one, kind of at once, and we can apply for all the purchases at once, could really help a business get started. Because yeah, like a mobile market, I'm imagining, is a bus or a big van of some sort, and it's like, you could buy that bus, you could buy all the refrigeration and all that equipment you would possibly need. So that's sort of where I'm thinking about taking this work. Yeah, and then I outlined our impact, our challenges and barriers, which really has been primarily like reaching the right people, those decision makers. You walk into a store and it's just sometimes some teenager that has no idea what's going on. And so really trying to connect with those decision makers. And also out here, we're just so spread out that identifying any new businesses that may have started that we don't even know about and nobody's told us about. But part of that, one of our strategies is talking to all of our county commissioners on a regular basis, to be checking in with them periodically about, hey, what's new? Who should we talk to? And that's been really helpful. Every time I've gone directly to them, sat in their meetings, and had my 15 minutes to talk with them, they've given me a lot of names and people I should be talking to. Identified, who our target audiences is that we're trying to talk to, and we could potentially bring this money into a whole bunch of actions to do, advertising we can do, how we're going to measure our success, our roles, our partners, all the resources that some of CDA's provided, and then some other stuff we're working on. Anyhow, that's in a nutshell what we've been thinking about. And I'm happy to answer any questions or anything.
So awesome. Yeah, I see a question from Eileen. Do you want to go ahead and just come off of mute and ask that, Eileen?
Sure. So I've been thinking about this ever since I heard some of the statistics around the number of Dollar General stores, right? And I'm just curious if anyone's reached out to see on a local level. I'm sure there's a corporate outreach we could do, but on a local level, if those stores, which are so prevalent around the country, would be willing to do some local food distribution sales.
So Eileen, one major barrier there is that I'm pretty sure Dollar General stores are not Colorado owned and operated. So they're chain, and that is like the big difference between who's eligible and who isn't. So while it's still, I mean, right, like to the extent that each of your organizations. Jay, it sounds like the Local Foods Coalition is keen on advancing this work with the support of CFA or not. That's up to you if you want to do that pursuit of those stores. But unfortunately, the legislation did not include those kinds of stores as eligible.
Yeah, and I will say too that the Dollar Generals are part of the problem. Like they have kind of squeezed out some of our other small retailers. Yeah, we have Dollar Generals everywhere, but I don't consider those grocery stores, even though people buy all their groceries there. And it's really just really sad because that food looks terrible. But
I mean, it is, but it's also because SNAP benefits are what they are, and they're the store that's within walking distance.
Right.
So, like, if people just do the best they can, right? Like, and I don't know. I think that that's a great idea of thinking about how to partner with local markets of where, folks can actually access food, but they have to be like Colorado owned, and that is a challenge. And I think, and I'm going off on a tangent, it just reinforces in my mind the narrative in the food system of where mostly people of color are just in the recipient line of receiving and never in the vein of being able to actually have the resources and the capital to create their own solutions in their own community. And like, how do we make that shift?
One idea that I had, because it is a corporate, network, is to possibly just partner in at least being in the parking lot with a pop-up, at a minimum pop-up market, right? Or a mobile market like you were suggesting, Jay, is that there's the infrastructure there. People were going there anyhow. It's going to be it's apparently convenient. And it's one of probably many other approaches that we can take.
Eileen, I love that you brought that up. And Chelsea, it sounds like you're the representative here from the Western Slope, but they identified a gas station where that's like a pretty common place for a large group of people to actually buy their groceries. And it's sort of the same thing. It's a chain, not a independently owned store. But if we've identified that as a place where people are going for food, would that not be a great parking lot for a farm to set up a farm stand? And as we all know, this has been a theme that's come up a lot in this work. Farms just needing to know where to be, how to access that population. So I love these ideas. And Eileen, I think that's an awesome one. Megan, did you have any comment about working with sort of a more corporate chain?
Nothing really particular. We had worked with or attempted to work with them in some of our other program areas, and I just know the local manager would love to do that, but their hands are just very tied at the corporate level.
Yeah. I think Erica just jumped in, but I know I've talked with her a lot about working with a particular 7-Eleven store owner who has kind of run into the same challenges of wanting to do things, but having to follow this playbook from 7-Eleven. So definitely.
Mickey, I just have a quick question. Is 7-Eleven also considered like a national corporation or locally owned in Colorado?
Great question. So I can double check this. We didn't really get any applications for the grant or the tax credit from 7-Elevens, but I believe they are not a chain, but a franchise, which would count. Erica, I'm sorry, I'm speaking for you, but I think the experience that she conveyed was from a past project, not like before this program existed. So I want to give Eri a chance to ask her question.
Yes, thank you. Sanders, I have a question. You mentioned about a training, a store or grocery training, how we can have access to that training. Maybe we can have more information to support small businesses from that. So I don't know if you can share with us that. Thank you.
Jay, do you want to speak to that? I think Eri is referencing the Rural Grocery Initiative, which I just put in the chat.
Oh yeah, that was all I was gonna do is look it up and put it in the chat. Yeah, and you know, one of the things that's helpful is that our organization is like a pretty working on food access anyhow. So we, you know, we do plan to keep this work going for years, and that's why we can handle taking that training this fall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'm really, really impressed at the challenges that the San Luis Valley is taking on. It's very daunting to have. I mean, it's almost the opposite problem. Some of your regions have so many eligible businesses. It's kind of infeasible to reach them all, which is its own challenge. And you know, in the San Luis Valley, it's like they've reached saturation. But I think that the answer comes back to this exercise that you all did of identifying where are the priority areas and how do we go down that road. So thank you so much for sharing, Jay. Really, really impressed by the work that you've put into that strategic plan. Maybe we jump over to maybe Denver Metro. Do you want to share your summary of your strategic plan? Feel free to take as long or as short of a time as you want. Thought I saw Hallie here. Maybe she's gone. Anyone else from the Denver Metro group want to represent the
Yeah,
team?
I can do that, but give me a few minutes to find our strategic plan. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else ready? Want to share?
I'm happy to go. I don't have as nice of a strategic plan formatted as Jay, so I'll probably just talk through it. But I am happy to talk through our plans for 2025 and 2026. So my name's Hunter Knapp. I'm from Project Protect. We are operating primarily in Northeast Colorado. And so we have been really focused on connecting with Spanish-speaking business owners and building trust in the program throughout 2024. And we have made some headway. We already got some interested nibbles and kind of owners at the beginning of 2025 saying, hey, now I'm kind of ready to consider purchasing qualifying equipment and applying for the tax credit. So it seems like the trust building has slowly been bearing fruit. We are also mapping out some of the potentially remaining stores. The region that we cover is pretty different. Weld County, generally very densely populated, a lot of stores that are qualifying, but as you get out into the Eastern Plains, it becomes like there's one or two stores in a given town. And so we're trying to just find those last remaining outposts, connect with them through our just relationships in the community. We also know about a couple new businesses that are planning to open up in 2025 or maybe already have, but aren't like officially on Google Maps and are still getting their signs and things like that. So we think these could be really good options, sort of to what Jay was saying about starting up new stores. There's a couple opportunities in Northeast Colorado where people might be eligible for the program and interested in applying. So we're getting in early and getting in their ear, trying to encourage them to kind of map out. And like Jay said, especially with these startup costs, it's really about planning the purchases early, demonstrating that impact in the first year, and but these folks obviously have a lot of other things on their mind. And so we're just really trying to have those conversations right now so that we can plan the purchases and then get the tax credit applications in when they open up again. I mentioned that we are kind of working with a lot of carnicerias and Spanish-speaking businesses in Northeast Colorado. There has been a lot of ICE activity, obviously in Aurora, but really ranging up into a lot of Northeast Colorado communities. And one unfortunate side effect of this is that there are a lot of rumors flying around about, oh, ICE is here and there. And Walmart has been a big location where those rumors are kind of centered on. And so we've actually found that agricultural workers and other folks in Latinx communities are tending to avoid Walmart a little more. It's obviously kind of a staple in terms of their pricing structure and just availability of goods. But folks have been avoiding the big box stores more, going to their local carnicerias. And so that is kind of a weird silver lining, is that hopefully we can get more money back into the hands of these small business owners and out of the hands of these giant multinational corporations. So I just wanted to mention that because we are certainly pushing the carnicerias to expand their produce and their other healthy food options. A lot of them have certain staples, obviously carry meats, but trying to get them to carry some more fresh produce and maybe put in some refrigerated sections. The last big thing is we're forming a partnership with a tax accountant and sort of business consultant from Fort Morgan named Los Servicios Gonzalez. And it's a mother-daughter team who are really trusted in the community. And we're hoping that we can sort of subcontract with them as an additional technical assistance provider, so that they can provide advice and some of the specialized information about actually completing your taxes when you're applying for this sort of tax credit. Because I don't have personal experience in that sort of business management role. And so, in addition to these people having clients and relationships with a lot of these businesses throughout Northeast Colorado, we hope that they will reduce hesitation in applying for the tax credit because we will have them as kind of on call, ready to provide answers to any questions that folks may have as we're getting closer to the end of the year and they're really looking at what it's going to take to file their taxes for 2025. So, I think I hit everything. Mickey, is there anything that I sort of left out?
I mean, I'm so impressed at that, that partnership you're forming with the accountant there. I think that's going to be really, really valuable and on multiple levels. And yeah, thanks for mentioning the status with, yeah, how people are fearful of ICE activity. I definitely think it will create an extra challenge for us in the next couple of years in terms of trust building. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Is that Javier with the raised hand?
This is sorry. I had to switch my phone because my Wi-Fi is being really bad today. But I am glad, Hunter, that you brought up the working with immigrant communities in the theater. And that was something we had our Metro Denver check yesterday. And we have already been hearing from some of the stores that they no longer want to participate in this program if they themselves are immigrants, given that it's a government program. And so we just wanted to bring that up, and there were a couple questions that our group had about this specifically that we wanted to be able to talk with the group about. So the questions were, how are we?
Oh no. I think we lost Hallie. Shoot.
While she's coming back, I'll just kind of piggyback on that. We have heard similar things in terms of fear, both is the funding going to be gone, like just with all of the chaos at the federal budgets? Is the program just going to end in 2025? If I apply, will I be able to get paid in 2026? So any additional guidance or kind of public statements that you could put out would be great for that. And then, yeah, just the general fear of providing personal information, especially to this government, I think is gonna grow, and people are seeming receptive at the beginning of this year. But as we get closer, I think we're gonna encounter a lot of hesitance because the initial kind of fear is now being amped up by the government.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's yeah, thanks for saying that. I will talk to the powers that be about making a public statement just for all of your knowledge though. And I recognize that this nuance is tough to convey, but there is a difference between state government and federal government, and everything comes down to that. So luckily, this money is state money. Our salaries and, your contracts are state monies. So in that sense, it's not, I mean, I guess anything's possible, but in terms of things at risk, this whole program, I would say, is very, very low risk because it's state money, it's a state program. So yeah, I think that's something you all can take to heart. Michelle, do you have any other comments on that?
No, I was just going to echo what you said, and I think it would be great to go through our comms department to see if the commissioner or someone wants to come out with a statement, just to reassure people. That would be really beneficial. So thank you everyone for suggesting that.
Yeah, and so yeah, I think I tried to convey this early on, but the grant program was federal funds, but those have been expended, right? So that if we had still had money left to disperse, that would definitely be something that was at risk. But because this tax credit doesn't use federal monies, it's safer than money that's being passed through a state. Just trying to keep up with Hallie's questions here. Hallie, feel free to come off of mute if you want to ask the rest of your questions.
Yeah, sorry. But I put the in the chat. I think you answered the risk one. How we communicate this, any guidance from CDA would be helpful. And what we do to help people, especially being eligible into this tax credit. There's a lot of information.
Hallie, I'm so sorry, but I can't fully understand the word. I can hear that you're talking, but it's a little garbled. So I thanks for putting your questions in the chat here. Maybe keep up with that and I'll try to address those. So yeah. Michelle, do you have an answer to this information protection question in the chat?
I don't. I just made a note about that. I think we need to get more guidance probably from, to your point, the powers that be at CDA. I know it's been brought up in other programs as well. So yeah, just getting clarity on a policy and what could or would be shared if someone was requesting information and how that would work, and just ensuring people that, yeah, their private information is being protected. So yeah, we will, I mean, notes on both of those things. Yeah, we can follow up and great conversation. So thank you everyone for bringing these things up.
I'll just say that, you know, it was a different administration that administered the funds for the grant, and it was very clear to us that we were not allowed to ask about immigration status. And if we happen to know anything about immigration status, we were not allowed to share it. So that's how things went for the grant. There's no reason why we would ask for that information for the tax credit or the consortium. So we don't have any of that kind of information on file. We do have, and this is something that I've put in the agenda to talk about later, people are sharing their tax IDs. And in some cases, that's their social security number. So, you know, we take the utmost security with that. We do ask folks to redact as much as possible that we don't need to see. We do need to know if they're filing their taxes with their own social security number. We do need to know that number. But, you know, sort of on a different tangent, this is the reason why your contracts took so long to come together, because we needed all of your organizations to have that cybersecurity insurance policy. So I just ask you all to be very mindful if you are copied on emails about tax credits that contain sensitive information, you know, banking information, tax IDs, be very careful with that information. And I would almost advise you to come up with a policy at your organizations to maybe delete those emails on a periodic basis, just so nothing happens with some kind of cyber hack. And that goes for everyone, not just recent immigrants. So okay, thank you for bringing all this up, Hunter. I think Hallie is now gone. Oh no, I see Hallie back. Would this be a good time to pivot to Denver Metro's strategic plan? I know you brought up some of these great questions. Anything else that you want to talk about with the development of your strategic plan?
Yeah, can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry, I'm having a lot of technical issues today. Yeah, we met yesterday. Our strategic plan, we all took a lot of time to identify stores in our communities that we wanted to be building relationships with. So we have a long list of stores. I think in the metro area, we definitely haven't reached like all the stores that could be eligible. So that's a big focus. And when we were talking yesterday, we were just talking about kind of all the different sources that we used to identify those stores. So it was a lot of like personal knowledge of our organizations, and then to narrow down like what areas we're searching in, and then using like Google Maps or different maps that are available for each of our communities to find stores that we may not know about, especially like ethnic markets and stuff. And so, yeah, what we found is a lot of these small stores don't have information listed. So we're going to be doing a lot of in-person outreach, and just lots of touch points to try to build some trust. And yeah, we expect there to be a lot of barriers just with the height and fear, and a lot of the stores that we have in our list are in immigrant communities. And so that's why we had a lot of questions about that. And yeah, James created like a tracking spreadsheet to keep track of all the stores and where they're at, and share that with everyone. So we're working on making sure that we all are meeting all the deadlines for all the support that we are going to provide for the tax credit for the next couple of years. There's also talk from folks about bringing outreach materials to other community events or farmers markets and stuff like that. So yeah, we also did talk about the fact that like there are some neighborhoods in the Denver metro area that don't have stores and need them. And so looking at like what other retailers are there and how we could support them to to meet the requirements of the program and potentially be able to carry fresh food if they want. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's kind of what our strategic plan includes. And I think just any support that CDA can provide with like how we can communicate with stores and immigrant communities will be really helpful for us, because that's what a lot of our organizations in the Denver metro area were kind of targeting.
Thanks so much for that, Holly. And really interesting to know that, yeah, even though there are so many stores, potentially eligible stores, you're still kind of in maybe a similar boat as the San Luis Valley with identifying some neighborhoods that don't have a store, and might be going down the same road as Jay and the Local Foods Coalition with, yeah, seeing if a coffee shop wants to meet the requirements to become a small food retailer.
Yeah. I want to also ask any of the other Denver Metro folks that are on the call if they wanted to add anything else about what they added to the plan for the 2 years.
I don't actually have anything to add to the plan, but a story to kind of illustrate some of the opportunities that are showing up. So recently in Bennett, Colorado, which is in Adams County, part of our region, the food pantry had to close, and it's just has resulted in a humongous need for food. And so Food Bank of the Rockies reached out to Emerald Gardens, which is in Bennett, but a food stand, and to see if there's a way to move food from that food stand to inside Bennett. And as it turns out, there's a partnership that is developing with the rec center, and where we can start to distribute food boxes. And Emerald Gardens is working with Hardy Provisions, a local food hub, to help fill those food boxes along with Food Bank of the Rockies. So there's, a lot of those connections that are being made to really fill an immediate need. And I think we might be seeing more and more of that in the near future.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that, I mean, nobody really knows how this is going to go, but with like massive cuts to funding in every sector, will organizations that are 100% reliant on grants and charitable donations fade out, and will there be a greater reliance on retailers to get food? We don't know, but I really appreciate you bringing up that story, Eileen, and I think it's something that we'll all want to be talking about together in these meetings. So thank you guys so much, Denver Metro. Shall we move to maybe the Southwest?
Sure. Hi. So we work in the southwest corner of Colorado, and every region's unique, but what makes our region unique is we're pretty rural, but the like size of our region is like much smaller than the San Luis Valley, for instance. So some similarities with what Jay was talking about, we really early on in our outreach and TA work were able to pretty thoroughly like identify and map out all of the eligible retailers in every single county in our region. And so we kind of, for this strategic planning process, like revisited that list and just like kind of went through like a whole process of prioritizing at this moment in time where those retailers might land on, what the need is as far as connecting them with these programs and these opportunities. So we like re-looked at the Lila maps, and then our organization, the Good Food Collective, luckily our service territory pretty much more or less matches the territory that we're covering through our outreach and TA work. And as an organization, we do a lot of other things, and a lot of food access, a lot of supporting our local agriculture and producers. So we were able to leverage kind of like the connections and the groups that we're already a part of. For example, the Montezuma Food Security Working Group, Pine River Shares that works in one food shed, the La Plata Food Equity Coalition, et cetera, et cetera. All of these kind of like food access, food security works in the different pockets of our region, and just kind of like check with them that we're like heading in the right direction. These are the retailers that, would benefit the most from being able to increase access to healthy food through the tax credit of the consortium. And so we have a list of kind of like what bubbled to the surface, which of those retailers kind of came up, which pretty much matched what we had been seeing in our work over the past couple of years. And then recently, kind of like others have mentioned, there's, a cafe that's starting to stock more groceries. So how can we support them in their efforts? There's a grocery store that's struggling and up for sale and taking down from the market and trying to sell, and they don't know what they're doing. So how can we support them? And so our strategy is really like top priority is working with these retailers in Lila communities that have expressed need from community members that this is where people shop, this is where people want to continue accessing healthy, affordable food. And then our second priority are producers that sell to those retailers, as well as farmers who grow and sell year round and or have like a pretty wide variety of foods that they're able to offer at their farm stand, because they kind of act as grocery stores and are really, really remote rural towns. And so that's our strategy. And then what that will look like, we're still kind of figuring out. I think it's going to be different than what our outreach and TA strategy was for the grant. That was more of like a little bit more general. And we feel like now we have a very specific list of which businesses are highest need, highest priority. And so I think we're kind of pivoting more towards finding a liaison that can help us build that trust, communicate to this business in a way that resonates with them. Because oftentimes we tell businesses about these opportunities and on paper they're a great fit, but for one reason or another, they're not interested. So we're kind of testing out what that looks like by identifying community liaisons who just have that one relationship with one retailer, one business in their store, maybe two in their community, to help us, get to the next step where they're actually engaging with us and interested in taking advantage of the tax credit or consortium. For example, we're doing that right now with a grocery store in Silverton, which in the past is on paper the perfect business to take advantage of all of these things through the Community Food Access Program, but have not taken advantage of it. And we've been working with the mayor of Silverton, who has a personal relationship with the grocery store owners. And she, every couple months when she sees them, she like brings this stuff up again and kind of like is slowly nudging them like, hey, I know you just bought a brand new refrigerated produce display case. You know that there's a tax credit for that, right?
Wow.
And so I think that strategy is working. I had like a sit down meeting with the owners and the mayor, and we showed them exactly like what we could support them with. So yes, still learning. And I really appreciate this conversation today because I'm getting so many other ideas that we could incorporate into our strategy for the next year or two. Just to like really have our stuff dialed in.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Lauren. That's, yeah, it's been interesting. I think analogies I'm seeing is with the Northeast and you guys down in the Southwest. I feel like in the reports I've seen from you, you've got this really clear list of like really good fits, but it's a trust issue. And I think, yeah, I think that's really interesting challenge to deal with. But yeah, I hope we can learn from each other and get ideas from each other. So I also really appreciate the way, you know, you're leveraging your other work and your connections to other food access organizations to just kind of ground truth. Yep, this is the area. This is the high need area. The maps say so. We think so. And so do these organizations that we work with. So I think that's a really helpful part of that exercise. And I maybe mentioned this to some of you in back and forth with your quarterly reports, but you know, hopefully this exercise of identifying where the highest need areas in your region can expedite the answering of the question, tell me about the food landscape. Because if that's just a copy paste from your team's predetermined, pre-decided list that you developed from your strategic plan and you've done all that thinking, maybe that saves a little bit of time in the writing of the application. So something to think about there. Any questions for Lauren? Okay, maybe we could jump down to the Southern Front Range.
This is Monique. I can start. So our region has a lot of diversity in terms of population density, store types, distance, and our lead contractor, RMSER, has subcontracted with a number of kind of locals in these areas. So we have someone in the Aurora area, someone in El Paso County, two of us in Pueblo. And we kind of split up the region based on the communities where we live and work. Our challenges in Pueblo County, for example, are different than Aurora and different than El Paso. So we're kind of navigating not only a difference in the types of approach, but also not having a keen understanding, like you just mentioned, Lauren, of the whole region you're servicing, or Jay, what you just mentioned, having action in the whole region. So we're doing our best to kind of fit it together. I can speak from the Pueblo perspective, and Perdita, Tajay, and Patience, please jump in if you have anything to add for your own areas. But we're also seeing the same level of disinterest and mistrust around the program. Some folks that you on paper are a slam dunk, and you walk into them and say, I'm going to make this as easy on you as possible to help you get some of this support for your business. They are just straight up like, nope, I'm not interested. And that's kind of where the conversation ends for that go around. So that's interesting intel, just to say, okay, got it. Can you help me understand a little bit more as to why? Now, with all of the additional pressure, and yes, we know that state government and federal government are two different things in the way that they function, but in the eyes of individuals who are extremely sensitive around those conversations and interactions right now, it really doesn't matter which government we're representing when we express that it's a government-related program that requires a depth of information about them and their business. So in navigating that within our community, especially in Pueblo, where we've done a lot of work to build trust in those spaces so that basic food security needs can be met, in addition to developing economic opportunities, does present some challenge in being really aggressive in this moment. And maybe as things cool and the website is back live and, you know, we can really kind of guide folks to the statement that perhaps will be provided, those conversations will be a little bit easier because we'll have some backup. But right now they're sensitive conversations. So we too found all of the quote unquote eligible retailers in our area that are currently accepting SNAP. That may or may not be all of the retailers that are out there, but we're going to start with the ones that are accepting SNAP, in addition to some of the largest farm stands in the area who currently still do not accept SNAP, and helping them sort of come around to the understanding that this is a great opportunity on many fronts, and see if we can sort of support two advancements for food access within those farm stands kind of at the same time, knowing that they're very different conversations, but recognizing one may help us talk about the other. Yeah, I would say that's what's popping in Pueblo County. And Perdita, Patience, Tajay, if you have anything to add from the other areas, please do.
Thanks, Monique. Yeah, Perdita, Patience, I think Tajay just had to jump. But yeah, feel free to jump in with any other additions to that.
Patience here, jump in. Experiencing a lot of the same challenges that Monique mentioned, but also I think, you know, El Paso County is pretty equally urban and rural. Part of this challenge, I would say, just from our perspective, is really figuring out how we do this work in an inclusive way that I guess brings folks together from all levels of the food system, or particularly when recipients are mostly on SNAP benefits and have very little income, like connecting them with local producers, and in a way that is helping make that connection reciprocal, and understanding, you know, why supporting local producers is important, is hard to do when your income is very limited. And so I think, you know, one of the things that Food to Power is hoping to do is just continue to hold space to help bring people together across the region, create ecosystem maps, and really kind of think about where, I guess, maybe being creative around what those, like what how we can create subsidies within those relationships. And sorry, I'm at a loss for words, but you know, I'm sure we all saw the article about, you know, SNAP benefits and folks who are undocumented in the last 24 hours. I mean, that only increases, I think, you know, the distrust that Monique was talking about and mentioned when we're asking people for their information. But yeah, I think being creative around just trying to get food to where people are with as low barrier of collection as possible is one of the things that I'm thinking about, and trying to create partnerships around. So if that was very long-winded and you have specific questions, please let me know. But those are what I'm hearing, and those are the conversations that I'm hearing in my community.
Thanks for sharing, Patience. And yeah, this is definitely a very challenging time to be in nonprofit work, to be in government work, and to be someone who, yeah, is dependent on government programs and nonprofit programs. It's really challenging. I think we're all at a loss. What's tough is when federal when an administration changes and takes away federal support, yeah, this is the tool that we do have. And I think, I don't know, maybe that's something to just kind of chew on for the next little bit is there are going to be some federal government programs that don't get support, but so this is the one that we've got. How can we lean on that? And I do really appreciate, Monique, what you said about it doesn't matter for a lot of people if it's a city government, a county government, a state government, or federal government, it's still the government. So yeah, those are the challenges we're up against. Perdita, did you have any other comments?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to reflect on how I think that this conversation has been very useful, because regardless of the region, there's something in everything that everyone said that I think is useful for us. Because even Pueblo County is very diverse depending on whether you're talking about the west side, the east side, or city proper. So all of those tactics will be appropriate, I think, to look at.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that we have gone way over time, and I may not get to some of the things on this agenda, but I think that this discussion is far more valuable than any rambling updates I have for you guys today. So we'll figure out a way to get all of the updates to you either through email, or we may punt some things to next month. But I'm very, very intentional about keeping more space in these meetings for all of you to share with each other, because you are all on the ground doing the work, and there's so much that you guys can benefit from learning from each other. So okay, let's see. Chelsea, I know, I think you might be the only representative from Western Slope. Do you have any comments you want to share about your process? I know you might be kind of new to joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mickey. So yeah, my name's Chelsea. I'm the Program Operations Director at Community Food Bank in Grand Junction, Colorado. And I am newer to joining active participation in the CDATA work. My colleague Jesus was our main point person previously, but he just celebrated the birth of his first child just about 2 weeks ago now. So he is on some well-deserved parental leave, and I'm happy to step into this space and meet all you lovely people. So we serve Mesa County on the Western Slope. So we are doing outreach for the tax credits in that county, but we're also providing Spanish assistance in outreach in Delta, Olathe, and Montrose in collaboration with Penelope over at the Valley Food Partnership. Wow, acronyms. So like a lot of folks, last year we spent a lot of time identifying high needs areas, LILA communities, etc. Speaking with our own clients, we are a direct food access program primarily at Community Food Bank. So, we have an absolute wealth of knowledge at our fingertips in the clients that we serve and the community members we work with. We have a community advisory board as well that meets quarterly, that's made up of current and former clients. So we're really, able to, get that firsthand input from our community members as we're prioritizing outreach. So we do have quite a few small retailers that are potentially eligible for the program. And of course, last year we were working on the grant and the tax credit with those folks. So for the first part of our strategic plan, we're really following up with the folks we've worked with previously, making sure that they're still aware of the program and assisting with TA as needed. But then we're really going to be shifting our focus to getting to new folks that we didn't reach out to last year, especially deepening our understanding and connections with the Spanish-speaking retailers in the other counties that aren't, our home turf, the folks we're not as closely related and partnered with. We're also hoping to host kind of a town hall type gathering for retailers after the new rules for the tax credit are updated, as kind of like a general info session where we'll, invite specific retailers to basically be able to kind of give all the information at once to a lot of folks. And that way people can follow up with us instead of us making necessarily like dozens of trips in person to different folks. So I'm hoping that will be successful. We plan to offer that one in English and one in Spanish as well. And then looking forward, the other major point is we're also doing Double Up Food Bucks outreach through Nourish. So we're looking to kind of pair and marry these two outreaches together and really try to get the most impact as possible while we can. And then of course, we have some goals, trying to get at least 75% of our identified stores applied by the end of October. That's one of our goals, but we'll see how it goes in 2025 and then take the last little bit of the year to kind of gather feedback from the vendors that we have been assisting and use it to inform the plan for 26. That's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Chelsea. Really appreciate that synopsis. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned I was impressed in your quarterly report. Yeah, the identification of that gas station that could potentially be a site for some of the numerous farms who maybe want a better shot at reaching a Lila population for them to explore setting up there or nearby there. That the Western Slope group also did like a very like they ranked the priorities. They identified stores and they ranked them in order, which I thought was very interesting and also helps maybe focus limited time and bandwidth, because I know all of you are doing quite a lot more besides just this work. So thank you for sharing, Chelsea. Megan, do you have any comments on Southeast strategic plan?
Sure. As you guys know, probably, this program on our end was previously administrated by my former coworker Blaze, who was a super champion, but has gone back to full-time farming. So kudos to him, and also we miss him. But we have kind of reframed what that role looks like. So going into the next couple years of this programming, we're focusing on more of kind of a regional situation. I actually, for Ogallala Commons, serve as the Workforce and Leadership Program Development Coordinator, and also as a regional coordinator for Southeast Colorado. So I'd echo Chelsea, I'm very new to figuring all of this out, but we are really working, as all of you have talked about, on that kind of trust building. Blaze had a great phrase for Southeast Colorado, and he called kind of the vibe of the area rugged lone wolf individualism, which is what people love about this part of the world. But that also, and I'm from this part of the world, so I can probably claim that as well. But it's also, presents a challenge, like many of you were talking about, building that trust in communities where it's very much, I'll do it myself, I'll figure it out, and not willing to, or not as interested or as trusting in accepting help. But we do have, through our food systems work that's already going, our food hub and things like that, we have relationships with, I would say, a majority of the producers in the area. And we're also very familiar with a lot of the local grocery retailers in the area. So just continuing to build those relationships. We're in the process of bringing on some additional staffers to help with our local foods work in a more regional way. And so one of those staffers we're having a conversation with this week, a large part of his role initially will just be doing a lot of that face-to-face outreach, because that's what works, going and putting a face to a name and saying, I'm here to help. What can we do to make this work for you? And we're also building a more strategic communications plan to do some promotion in the areas where we know these people are, listening to the radio or checking social media or their local newspaper, doing some more just like broad promotion in that way, to kind of cover both the in-person and some of the other areas where they're going to see information about CDA and this technical assistance that we can offer. We also, I sit on our Economic Development Commission here in Baca County where I live. So I have a lot of connections that we're continuing to build with some of that county commissioner, board level communication and things like that, to help kind of come at folks from different angles. I think what we've seen success with is, I don't know if you've ever read the book on social media management called Jab, 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 Right Hook. But it talks about, coming from the personal side and then they hear it from somewhere else. And sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times for them to hear that from different sources before they really kind of latch on. But in the organizations that we have seen that have already applied, hugely favorable reviews, and so that helps as well because they talk to each other. So that's what we're hoping to kind of leverage going into the next couple of years.
Thanks for that, Megan. Yeah, definitely. Every region has its big challenges, and I'm so glad that we had some time and space today to talk about each of them. So yeah, thank you everyone for sharing and for putting in that hard work developing your strategic plan. Hopefully it serves as a really helpful guide for how to prioritize your time and your work with this contract going forward. So yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. That was really helpful. We have about 15 minutes left. I'm looking at our agenda and just gonna be picky choosy with what we lean into. I think one thing that's all on your minds probably is where are we at with the tax credit for businesses that applied in December. We are ready to go. We've got we have emails ready to press send on. We are right now just waiting for the Department of Revenue to tell us that they have all the information and we're able to send those emails. So I definitely assumed that would happen on Friday. So every day I'm kind of waiting for the green light. But if you were identified as an OTA provider to be copied, you will be copied. So you'll get that information when the applicant does. We're very, very excited about, how many folks applied and how many tax credit awardees we're able to give out. There were just a few that we couldn't award, and it was mostly because they asked for an ineligible object so we can talk more about that. I also do want to mention, as was brought up, March 17th is the date. We're thinking of this as the official relaunch of the tax credit program. The website's going to be back. We have also been working on, which I'm really excited about, taking the application to a new platform, which is way smarter than Google Forms. So if anyone out there in the crowd wants to get kind of sneak peek of the application and test it out, I can send you a test link and you can let me know if you see typos, if something isn't working correctly, something's worded in a very confusing way. So yeah, feel free to just email me if you want to be a tester. I'm pretty sure that Access will allow me to send that out to you guys. So okay, thanks, Chelsea. I think as many eyeballs on it as possible so that we can work out any bugs will be great before March 17th when it will reopen. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about the tax credit stuff. we'll take the next meeting to really lean into all of the materials, all of the new, everything new about the tax credit. So that's what we can expect for our March meeting. And then another note on the consortium, we will plan to have a meeting likely the last week of March. You all will be invited to attend. We hope this is a chance for all of our consortium members to kind of dig into some of the more challenging distribution issues that they've been experiencing. We've definitely been getting a lot of questions about, hey, can CDA help with this problem, et cetera. So I think that's it from me. I'm gonna hand it over to Adonai though, to talk about proof of purchase, proof of payment progress with grantees. So go for it.
Thanks, Vicky. All right, so the proof of purchase. Thanks everyone. I think we made good progress this couple last weeks. We have changed some folks that were in risk of an audit. Now they are green, so that's great. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, just a reminder, and you will see it in every single email that I send requesting the proof of payment to refer to the guide, to the proof of payment guide. There's very common mistakes that happen all the time, and we don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste, the grantee's time as well. So yeah, just before you go, take a look at that document, make sure you know what you need. And also, if you want to contact me before you go, I will give you the most up-to-date information. Just don't do it, 1 hour before you go, maybe 1 day before you go, and that'd be great. And I'll let you know what's the latest with that specific business. But yeah, most common mistakes that happen is that the statements, the bank statements or payments are lacking in detail. We just get a snapshot, a screenshot from the banking app, and it's just an order confirmation maybe instead of an invoice, which it's missing the tax, it's missing the shipping, so the amounts on the payment are not going to match the amounts on the invoice and things of that nature. Those are the most common mistakes that we receive. And all of you have a spreadsheet where you can find the latest information that I'll put in there, my latest communications as well. And yeah, with more specific cases, I'm just putting a note to contact me, just so you know, like what's been requested, or what they need in a specific, because yeah, you can go there and people might give you the same that I already have because they believe that's all they need, and might not be the case. I already might have some list that I created for them, and yeah, I can share that with you or whatever specific you need, so you can do it when you visit them or when you call them. But yeah, we are moving forward in that matter. I have a couple of visits that I'm scheduling. I have one visit this week with Las Monas Panaderia, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll be visiting them on Friday. I contact the business, and yeah, if the technical assistants would like to join and see what we will do with them, that'll be great. I'll send an email to you soon. But yeah, thank you for doing that. I know it's a task to do it, and people sometimes are apprehensive to share some information, which is understandable, but yeah, we just want to help them pretty much.
Yeah. Thanks, Adonai.
Thanks, Mickey.
Yeah, just to echo that, I mean, I think we've said this before, but the standard for what we need for proof of payment and proof of purchase for the grant is exactly the same as the standard we need for the tax credit. So it's just kind of like anything. Learning it for the first time might take a few back and forths, but when you do learn it, it's going to be really helpful when you're supporting businesses apply for the tax credit. So Are there any questions for Adonai or me about supporting grantees with their proof of payment, proof of purchase submissions?
Those, sorry, this is Chelsea here. Those documents you were talking about, Adonai, the spreadsheet with like updates on what documents are being requested and the like common mistakes for proof of payment, proof of purchase. Would it be possible to email the most up-to-date versions of those to us, just since I'm newer, and make sure that we have the correct documents on file?
Sure. So I was talking about the spreadsheet where I don't put a lot of detail in there because sometimes it's a full list, like we need that invoice, we need that proof of payment, you need to correct that. And so sometimes it's a long email. So when it's that long, I just put a note in that spreadsheet. Contact me and then I'll forward you that email that I sent them. And somehow I haven't received, or maybe they are being challenged. Yeah, it's challenging for them to send all of that, and they just keep sending the same things that are not right. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I think it would be better to contact me like with a specific, like, hey, I'm gonna call them. What do they need? And then I'll start looking my email in the files. Maybe they already sent something because this is happening in real time. Like as we speak, changes are being done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Chelsea.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions, comments for Adonai? I'm just looking through my list of things that I had hoped to talk with you about. As always, I do keep this updated. The end of our agenda has sort of our thoughts on how you should be prioritizing your time. Again, we are still in this phase before March 17th, so focusing on supporting grantees getting their documents in. One other thing I wanted to mention about this, we are so grateful to have a little bit of help here. This is a huge task for us. So there's 2 other people from CDA who've jumped in to help. So you might, or your, grantees in your region might get an email from Jody or Sarah, Jody Walder, Sarah Miller. So just a heads up there if you're like, who's this person? Yeah, take a look at those PA priorities. And you may have also seen this fraud, waste, and abuse chunk in here. I put this in because our compliance liaison had a training with us, very procedural, and mentioned that we should be talking, all of you as contractors of the state should be aware of and discouraging fraud, waste, and abuse. You can read those definitions of fraud, waste, and abuse. I have not seen this as an issue amongst anyone yet. We'll spend a little bit more time chatting about this next meeting, but this is just in here to remind you that you are sort of extensions of the state, and it is not in the taxpayer's interest to have those dollars go towards fraud, waste, or abuse. So that's just a little context on why this section is in the agenda. We'll talk about it more next month, but we don't need to spend an incredible amount of time on it. Okay, I think those are it. That's kind of it for our updates. There's obviously some things I wanted to talk about more in depth. So if you, we don't have enough time to really get into all of it, but thank you all for a really great meeting. Really happy that we can all talk about our strategic plans today. And I will stay on if folks have direct questions for me. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Hunter.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Perdita.
Hey, Mickey. We had a few questions that I wanted to ask you about if you have a couple minutes.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Diego, thanks so much.
Yeah, I also had a question, so I'll wait until after Hallie, but don't want you to think I'm just.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna jump in. This is Perdita. Ed and I just had that question about the updated version of your green red